Freeway Rick Ross sits down with the collective nine. All right, first, thank you, brother Rick Ross, for sitting down with me and doing this interview with us, the collective nine. And we're going to go ahead and first, if there's any information you'd like to share, is there any information that you would like to kind of share with us before we get started, for those who may not know who you are?
Well, for those who don't know, been under a rock.
Yes, sir.
I'm pretty well known now. Matter of fact, there's a documentary that's been airing on the History Channel that I was in called American Drug War.
Yes, sir.
Also, there's a new TV show out called Snowflake that we believe was based heavily on my life. I had a documentary that came out 2 years ago, nominated for an Emmy Award, came on Al Jazeera, that I produced, called Freeway Cracking the System.
Yes,
I've been
sir.
featured on American Gangster.
Yes, sir.
My book is a bestseller now. So for people not to know me, mean that they ain't been doing their homework.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Or they ain't been doing no homework.
Right. Yes, sir. Thank you. So I'm going to go ahead and just jump in. The first question is just from your perspective, what is the purpose of education?
Well, when I think of education, I don't think of the basic education that we get in a public school. I believe that education is something that you never stop learning. You got to continuously educate yourself on the things that's going on. Say, for instance, like me, I was just educated a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago, about hashtag on the internet. I never knew that. I've been going around with this idea in my head to how I could dominate the internet in a certain form because I saw what people were liking, but I wasn't smart enough to know about the hashtags. So somebody educated me on the hashtag, and immediately I started to see much better results. So when you say education is so many different ways. I just bought my first computer.
Yes, sir.
So now I'm getting educated about a computer. When I went to Apple and bought the computer, I was scared to even turn it on. It's like, you turn it on for me.
Yes, sir.
Set my code. And that's from a lack of knowledge.
Right.
A lack of being educated.
Yes, sir.
So and those are the things, when I think of education, that's what I'm thinking of. I'm not thinking about, going to Harvard or Yale,
right,
or those places. You can go there and get educated, but you can get educated in a lot of different ways. I think the street gave me an education that you can't get in Harvard or Yale or UCLA or any of those colleges. You can only get it by those experiences.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So one of the things is we look in our community right now, there's people who are going, as you mentioned, there's people who are going to Harvard and going to Yale and going to many of these institutions, and they're still graduating with a PhD and they don't have a job. They're not able to take care of themselves. They're not able to do anything for themselves, and they're still dependent, looking out for somebody else. So with thinking about that, what should education be doing for, in particular, our people, Black people?
Well, education should be a form of development that you can actually use. And what happens to most people when they get educated, they get hung up on money. They believe that their education equates dollars and cents. When I believe that it's totally the opposite. I believe that when you have education, you're supposed to use it and practice it and build it. And once you build it to a certain level, then the dollars and cents will come. The dollars and cents are just the trophies.
Right.
From running the 100-yard dash.
Yes, sir.
And winning the 100-yard dash. Well, the trophy is after you finish the race, then you get a trophy to congratulate you for accomplishing that goal. And I think in business is the same thing, but most people, when they go into business, they're looking for a check every Friday as their payoff. Me, what I did is I formed a psychology that I might not get paid for 5 years.
Yes, sir.
I might have to work every single day and not get paid from the job that I'm doing for 5 years, maybe 10 years down the line. But I believe that $300,000 a year is better than 3,000 a month. You know, I would rather take 300,000 a year than 3,000 a month. I just have to sacrifice, and most people can't equate those scenarios. And what they do is they go for the quick buck and wind up even selling out their education that they went to Harvard or Yale and got.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So with that is that one of the things that, you know, we've been looking at is that with the power, you mentioned the internet, with the power of the internet right now is that we're not limited to space or time, right? So the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan recently, he's not doing as much traveling, but what he's been doing is video conferencing. So right now we can pull scholars, we can pull individuals from no matter where they are in the world, and they can speak live to an audience.
Wow.
for a small expense, you know, and anybody who wants to do it can do it, even with just a cell phone. So with that said is that, you know, there's some principles that you've learned from just your experience. You didn't go to Harvard. I didn't miss that. No, didn't graduate from any of the top, what they define as the top universities here.
My man said you either get it from Penn State or the State Penn.
Yes.
Well, I got mine from the State Penn.
Yes, sir.
Not to be bragging about that as if it's something that's fly, but that's just what happened.
Yes, sir.
You know, that's how I learned, but I did learn.
Yes, sir. So are there some principles, some things that you could think of that should be in the educational system right now, if you were given that power, in particular as it relates to business and economics? What is it that should be in the school that would help our children to be more effective?
Well, one of the most important things is that I feel that's really hurting us as a community right now is that we spend everything we get.
Yes, sir.
We don't put nothing back into our game. And when they read this book, they'll see that I took nothing out the game and put everything in. My man the other day, he called it compound interest.
Yes, sir.
I was doing compound interest and didn't know it. Every time I would go and spend my $300, I might make $5. Well, I took that whole $5 and threw it back into the game. So that was compounding my interest, compounded. So the next time I go, I spend $500, and then I would make $800, and I would take the whole $800 and throw it back into the game. So you keep compounding, to pretty soon your interest becomes greater than your principal. And if we do that, we'll win. But we're so busy every time we get some money in our hand, not only do we not get a chance to make the interest, but we spend the whole principal.
Yes, sir.
We go shopping and we spend the whole $300, because if you go buy a pair of Air Jordans, that's $160. You know, so then you get the shirt to go with it. That's another $40.
Mm-hmm.
So you look up, out of your $300, you done spent $200. So now you got to figure out, oh, what can I do with this $100 to make it grow? And it's tougher. Money is a tool.
Yes, sir.
That should be used the right way. When you give up your money, you give up your power. You give up your strength. Business-wise, they recognize the dollar. They'll do business with the dollar before they do business with you. And even at the local retail stores, we know situations where we'll go into a store and the people will be following you around like you're trying to steal. But as soon as you pull out the wad, it turns to bowing and smiling and everything is good. So that was a lesson for me to know that hold on to your dollars. Don't give your dollars away. But we as black people, we have a tendency of giving our stuff away, you know, and we give it to people who don't even like us, you know, people who won't even do business with us.
Right.
There's certain people that won't buy clothes from us that we go and buy from all the time. So that's not a trade. That's almost slavery.
Right.
You know, where the only thing they'll do is sell you their goods that they getting made in another country for rock bottom prices, and then they bring them over here and inflate the price and then sell it to you, but they won't buy your product.
Yes, sir. One of the things that stood out to me that you said, which is a principle that I think is challenging, and apparently you learned it early on, and that's about making a short-term sacrifice for a long-term gain.
Absolutely.
So what is it that you would, what is it? I know that's not something that you can necessarily just teach somebody, but how do we get our people to get to the point that we can see that I would rather not get the Jordans now so that in a few years I can get as many Jordans as I want?
Well, that comes with strength. You know, that comes with being able to ignore peer pressure. You know, in my book, Bishop Noel Jones wrote the foreword for me in this book, and he pointed out something to me that I really didn't think about, and that was that I didn't care what people thought about me. I don't care how you look at me. What was in my mind is what was important to me.
Yes,
so
sir.
I didn't have to wear the Air Jordans. I didn't have to wear the gold chains for me to feel fulfilled, because I was on a mission, and my mission was greater than what you felt about how I looked.
Yes, sir. One of the things that you mentioned in the lecture that you had the opportunity to speak today at Mos Mariam.
It's a blessing.
So before we go in, so what are your thoughts on that?
Never thought about it
yes,
before.
Sir.
You know, it was like when I was in prison, it was 3 people when I come home that I wanted to meet. Minister Farrakhan, Don King, and Les Brown. So when I went and met with the minister the first time, you know, it was like unexpected. You know, I was not expecting to meet the minister.
Right.
I just came here to do my work. You know, my work was to educate the kids. So I'm traveling around Chicago with Hip Hop Detox. So we hitting high schools. We doing like 3 high schools a day.
Right.
Boom, boom, all day long. We working. We come in. We dead tired. You go to the room, go to sleep, because you've been working, right? Standing on that stage, talking and just doing what we do. So Brother Enoch called me. He was like, man, Mr. Farrakhan invited us over to the house for dinner. I was like, what? Stop it. I said, you playing games, man. He's like, no, man, for real. He wants to come over and have dinner with him. He saw the article in the paper, and he wanted to talk to us. So that was like mind blowing, right there, because he was the first one that I met out of my 3 guys that I wanted to meet. So then today, to get to go on the stage, that I done saw him grace so many times and hold these lectures that I learned so much from. I'll be honest with you, I learned a lot from that stage right there. You know, stopped watching TV. I stopped listening to the radio because of what I heard him say on that stage.
Wow.
I'm a vegan now. I don't do no animal, no sugar, no butter, none of that stuff. No cheese. I cut it all off. Salts, done. Sodas, done. You know, I ain't wasting.
Yes, all from that stage.
All from that stage.
So
to go up on that same stage that you feel like not totally, but helped rebirth me was, you know, was amazing.
Good, thank you. There's something that you said, or there's several things you said that stood out, but one of the things you mentioned was that you were a serial entrepreneur. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I love business, man. I don't know. That's just like, I'd rather be doing business than anything. You know, like, I want my kids to be doing business with me. You know, like, I don't really want to go to the basketball game. I don't want to go to the theater. I don't want to go to a football game. I don't want to go to no boxing match. Unless I'm working with somebody that's inside the boxing match, you know,
sir.
Or working with the stadium. So it's like my life has become, I don't know, to some people probably boring, but to me it's like, wow, what better thing could you do than to be helping the people and just intermingling with people and just seeing things move and rotate. I mean, it's just a feeling that, you know, knowing that your family is eating because you out here grinding, you know, like, I don't spend my money. My family spend more of my money than I do.
Yes,
like
sir.
I said, I like the compound. I like the compound mind. You know, so to know that you're doing that, and not only are they helping you take care of your family, but you also really giving them a solid product.
Yes, sir.
You know, because having a solid product that you really believe in is really probably 90% of being a good salesman. Because if you got a product that you don't really believe in, you can't sell it. I mean, you can, but you're not gonna really feel good about yourself when you do it. So I just look for things
Yes,
that,
sir.
that I can do, you know, and I'm always looking for somebody, you know, that I can conquer whatever field they're doing, you know, like right now, I'm finna set my eyes on this new website that I'm getting ready to do. You
Okay.
know, I'm finna go after Amazon.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna challenge them for they space. And you know, the first time I told somebody in public, but that's what I'm getting ready to do.
We're gonna cut that out. But yes, sir. With that, you know, there's something that, you know, with you saying you're a serial entrepreneur. There's some principles that you learned from selling another product in the past.
Absolutely.
And I've heard it said that the principles of business are the principles of business. A successful business person is a successful business person.
Question.
So it doesn't really matter the product.
No.
So can you kind of talk to that for many of our brothers and sisters who only see there being one product that are very good businessmen?
Well, you know, and I tell our young brothers whenever I talk to them who are in the streets that they're geniuses, because they really are. You know, if you can go out here and you can sell cocaine, dodge DA, dodge the FBI, the Chicago PD, the Jackers, you know, your homies who really mean to do you in, you're a brilliant dude because you're doing accounting, you're managing, you're people person because you got to talk to your people to keep them right. When they ain't happy, you got to go talk to them and let them know everything gonna be all right, that you're gonna straighten it out. So when you're doing all of these different jobs, you're showing brilliance. That if you was using that same force in any other business, it would flourish. And you know, since I've been home, I've had some pretty good success. You know, in other businesses. I had a trucking company. I started off with $4,500. I got up to 5 trucks. I went out of business, but not because of something I did. You know, I had a couple wrecks. You know, a couple guys fell asleep in the trucks. Wasn't focused like they should have been. You know, and had a couple wrecks. My t-shirt business is doing really well. You know, right now I'm looking for designers. You know, young people who got designs, need somebody to back them financially. You know, I got some money now where I can start backing people financially. What else? Like I said, my websites. I'm getting better at that. My book. I'm getting ready to sell 100,000 copies.
Yes, sir.
Of the book. My speaking engagements are picking up, so it's showing some success. Not the success that I had before, but what I try to tell people too, that it took me 8 years to reach the height of the business in the drug business. The drug business, I just didn't start off my first week and make $1 million. No, it didn't happen like that. My first week, I didn't even make $20, I don't think. But I stayed with it, and I continuously studied and learned the business so much so that I could tell you the price of a kilo in most cities in this country, the price of an ounce in most cities in this country. And that was being educated. And I found out that the reason I made so much money selling drugs was because I was well educated in the drug business. I never could have did that. The 19-year-old Rick Ross, who didn't know what cocaine looked like, he didn't know what it smelled like, he didn't know the color of it, and he didn't know nobody who used it or sold it. So being a person like that there, you can't make money in no field.
Yes, sir. So the principle you're making is that anything that you want to do, if you put the time and the study to it, you can become a master at it.
Ain't no doubt. And you're going to make a lot of money.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm going to end on this question. This is my selfish question. Is I actually recently got laid off of my job like 2 weeks ago. And I made the decision that, you know, I've been wrestling back and forth with, man, should I go try to find another job or should I do what I know that I wanted to do in anyway? What advice would you give me?
Well, it's two ways. First thing you got to do is you got to get your expenses down. Number one thing for people who are going into business, you get your expenses down. I was fortunate enough when I first came home. I had a girlfriend who allowed me to come and live with her, and expenses was low for me, which was good. Then after that, I moved in with my mom and kept my expenses down. But I'm always trying to keep my expenses down. One thing you got to pay is rent. You got to eat. After that, those are really the only expenses that a person absolutely have to have. So if you can get those stabilized to a point to allow you the freedom to get to see the whole surrounding, because if you are on a job, you're kind of trapped and not able to really expand to the level that you could. So you have to make the decision on where your expenses is and how far can you go, or can you downsize? Like with me, if I was in a position to where I had high rent, I would be trying to figure out a way. How can I downsize? You know, how could I find somebody maybe to rent a room from, or who could I get to come in and roommate with me to pay part of the rent, so that now, say for instance, I'm paying $1,200 a month. Now I only have to pay $600 a month, which would be a lot easier for me to make. You know, you can almost go out on the street and hustle T-shirts and socks and something and make $600 a month. Versus if you'll notice, $2,800 a month or $3,000 a month. So it's all about how you downsize yourself. How can you humble yourself to say, you know what, I don't need this right now. I remember one of my friends, when I came home, he had cups of beans and rice in his kitchen, and he said, that cup of beans and rice is for Monday, that cup of beans and rice is for Tuesday, that cup of beans and rice is for Wednesday, and so forth. And he ate every single day beans and rice. But that allowed him not to be in the streets, you know, spending $20 a day on a hamburger and French fries and whatnot. And so that allowed his money to continuously compound until he was in a position to where he had his own store.
Thank you for your time.